Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to be setting up our project. We'll be setting up the folder structure and importing some assets that we need. So first of all, let's go down to our folders here, and at the moment we've got our photon folder and the default scenes folder that you get when you create a new Unity project. Let's start by in our scenes folder. Let's go inside there and we'll just delete this sample scene here, and let's create two new scenes. We want to create a new scene called menu for the menu, and then another scene called game, where the actual gameplay will take place. And while we're here, actually, let's add these to our build settings. So let's go up to File, Build Settings, and let's add these scenes in the build layout right here, just so that we don't have to do that later on, and if we forget to. So put the game in, and then we'll put the menu above, since we do want to launch into the menu scene. So once with that done, let's now go back to our assets folder and create the rest of our folders. So let's create a new folder here, and we'll just call this one animations, as we do need to have an animation for the actual attack when the player attacks. And if you do want to make any more custom animations, you can just put them in here. Okay, the next folder we want is prefabs. This is going to be stuff like all of the this is going to actually be all of the non-network required prefabs. I'll explain that a bit later. But along with the prefabs folder, we also need the resources folder, and this is where we're going to be putting in all of the prefabs that we need that are going to be spawned over the network. And again, I'll explain this later once we actually get into creating these prefabs. Okay, we got that. Now we need a scripts folder to store all of our scripts, and finally we need a folder called sprites. And let's actually open up the sprites folder, because we need to import a few different sprite sheets while we're here. So we'll open this up, and there's going to be three included different files in the project files that you can download, or you can choose to use your own. Actually there's four, but we're only going to import three, and we're going to be using the other one later on once we actually do our tile map. The first one we're going to be adding in is just a white square, and the reason we need a white square here is for when we have the health bars, we're not going to be using a slider. Instead, we're just going to be using a image with a specific fill amount, and in order to do that you need to have a actual sprite. You can't just set it to none. So we've got this here. Let's go up to our texture type, change that from default to 2D and UI, and then click on apply, just like that. The second one we need is the characters sprite sheet, and these two sprite sheets that we're going to be implementing in next are all Kenny assets. They're public domain sprites that you can use, but with this we just want to go up here. We want to change the texture type again to 2D and UI here. Click on apply, and actually we also want to change it from sprite mode to the sprite mode from single to multiple. And then what we can do, we can click apply again, then open up the sprite editor here. And inside of the sprite editor, we can actually individually cut these out. Now we can do that by hand, but it'll take some time. So what we can do is click on slice up here, make sure it's on automatic, and then click on slice, just like that. And as you can see, they're all automatically sliced up now, like so. Alright, we can click on apply, wait for that to go. It might take a while since there is quite a lot of different sprites here, so it might take some time. There we go. Then we can click on the X, and what we want to do now is actually change the pixels per unit, because at the moment it's 100, and if we were to drag this into our project, for example, once we set it all up with the character and all that, we'll see that this is a very small sprite. And the reason for that is because we need to set the pixels per unit to however many pixels we want in one Unity unit. So these characters here are about 16 by 16, and since we want the character to fill up a whole tile, we'll set the pixels per unit to 16, and then click on apply. Okay, with that done, we can drag in our next sprite sheet, which is items, and in here we can go click on that. We can change it from default to 2D and UI. We can click on apply. We can then change single to multiple, apply that again, then click on sprite editor and do the exact same thing. We can go slice, we can change that, set that to automatic, click on slice, wait for it. Yep, there we go. We've got all our sprites here, and we're not going to be using all these. Really, we're just going to be using the heart and a couple of these gems to have as treasure. But again, you can choose what sort of sprite sheets you want. We're just going to be using those though, so we can click on apply. Take some time since there are quite a lot of sprites in this sheet. And there we go, we can click on the X now, and we have all of our sprites in the game. Actually, no, first thing we need to do is click on the items here, and change the pixels per unit from 10 to 21, as that is how many pixels there are per tile on this sprite sheet. So we can click apply, wait for that to do its thing, and there we are, we are finished. Now we need to do is, we'll just set up the cameras and that for the different scenes. So if we go to our scenes folder, we will open up the game scene first of all. Don't save the sample scene. And inside of here, we want to change our main camera from perspective to orthographic. Since we are working with 2D, orthographic is what you would use, as it doesn't capture depth, whereas perspective, objects that are further away are smaller and closer up they are larger. Whereas with orthographic, it doesn't matter the distance between objects, they are all the same size. And here we can then just change the size of the camera here, but we'll just keep that at 5 for now. We can also change the background, since we don't really want a skybox, since it is going to be a side-on view, and it might look a bit weird, so we can click on here and go solid color instead. And I reckon we just keep it like this for now. We can change this color to something else later on, but we'll just have this for now. Now we can go to our menu scene, we'll save the game scene, and do the exact same thing. We'll change the camera from perspective to orthographic, and we'll change skybox to solid color. And for this, we can actually set a color that we want for the menu. So whatever you sort of want for your menu scene, we can maybe have a green like that. There we go. Now, something else we want to do is also add in our tags and sorting layers that we'll be using. So, to do that, we can go up here to the layers button here and just click on edit layers. And here we'll pop up with a list of what we can select. So let's open up our tags, and let's add in a new tag. So we'll click on the plus here, and the tag we want to enter in is enemy. Now, we already have a player tag. Unity already has the player tag pre-built into the editor. So we just need to add the enemy tag there, and that's of course going to be on our enemies, tagged as them. Then we can go into our sorting layers here, and what we want to do is we want to create a bunch of sorting layers. And what these are, these basically decide which sprites get rendered on top of other sprites. So of course we want the background to be spawned right at the back, we want the UI to be spawned right at the front, and we want the players to be spawned on top of the terrain but behind the UI. So we'll create a few of those. First one, let's create, is going to be BG for background elements. Then we'll create another one here, and this is going to be pickup for all our pickups. Then we'll create another one, and this is going to be called enemy. The next is going to be our player. And then finally we have our UI. So this is the order of how the sprites are going to be rendered. Save that, and that is our project setup pretty much done. In the next lesson, we'll start to actually set up our tile map using tiled, and then import it into Unity using tile to Unity. So yeah, I'll see you all then.